Hi, Coach Goodwill here, and welcome to the 2020 Corey Football Banquet. Doing things virtually this year. Obviously, we weren't able to have an in-person banquet, and I apologize for that. Obviously, we'd like to do it in person, but since we can't, we're going to honor our athletes this way. Coach Carney will be honoring our freshmen. Coach Lesher will be honoring our sophomores. Coach Carey will be honoring our juniors. I will be honoring our seniors. And I will also do the Offensive Player of the Year award. Coach Carey will take care of the Defensive Player of the Year award. And Coach Carney will do the Hammer award for this year. I'd like to thank the bus drivers for getting us to our destination week in and week out. It was kind of a different scenario for the bus drivers this year. They got us to the game. They weren't able to attend most of the games, so you guys, I appreciate you doing what you had to do to get us to the game safely, and hopefully next year we'll get you in the gate. The Corey Journal live stream, Scott Lockwood and Dewey Hurd, you guys do a tremendous job. I can't thank you guys enough, especially this year. I'm sure your live stream numbers were sky high with people not being able to attend the games. So the fact that you guys are able to bring our games to as many people as possible at a time when people couldn't get in the game was tremendous, and thank you guys for that. The Gridiron Club, a lot of people that had a lot to do with the Gridiron Club. Travis Carey, Pam Martin, Brenda Carey, Amy Helmer, Holly Vallant, the Proctors, and many other people. Thank you guys this year for everything that you've done. Feeding the team before or after the game. The 200 Club was a huge fundraiser this year. Thank you guys for putting that together. Fill the Freezer was something new, and it was a huge fundraiser for us, something that we will continue in the future. Thanks for putting that together, and of course the clothing order. Thank you guys for everything you do and your support for the team. Cheerleaders, band, thank you for your support. It was great to see the band out there. When we were able to get them there, when the guidelines changed, it was great to see the cheerleaders there. Thank you guys for your support, as always. Custodians, thank you. Game workers, our team manager, Gabby Troyer, getting the field set up before every game, being at practice, doing anything that needed to be done to help out the team. Gabby, we appreciate you. Our stats people, Eli Carey, it was good to have his face back on the sideline, and Dan Clark was able to help us with stats this year. They did a tremendous job, and it was a huge help. Game film and equipment, Jeff Weiss, thank you for filming the games week in and week out, and Nolan Carey, when we got you on the end zone cam there, thank you for helping out with the end zone cam. Mike Fedician, our trainer, does a tremendous job. Many thanks to you, Mike, for keeping our guys healthy and getting them back on the field. You do a tremendous job. Teachers and admin, thank you for your support. Can't do this without you guys. Our wives, our families, thank you for being so understanding, so supportive. Football season's not easy on families, it's not easy on the wives, so thank you for your continued support. And our parents, of course, thank you parents, thank you for your support, both of the players, of the coaching staff. It means a lot to have parents out there supporting what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish here as a coaching staff, so thank you. There are countless others that are involved, and too many to name. So if I'm forgetting anybody, I apologize. It truly takes a village to get through a football season and make it run all smoothly, especially this year with all the restrictions and guidelines that we had to adhere to. I couldn't be more appreciative of the efforts of everyone involved in this program, so thank you to everybody.
Okay, I'm Craig Jakewith, head coach for the middle school. Just gonna briefly go over our record. our players, and then have a few awards that the coaches came up with for the players. We ended the season at 7-1. First we scrimmaged Girard. That was supposed to be a week 1 game, but with COVID it turned into a scrimmage. Week 1 actual was General McLean. We lost 6-8. Week 2 we traveled to Northeast, won 20-16. Week 3 was Harbor Creek. Final score 22-14 Beavers. Week 4 we were supposed to play Fort LaBeouf. They were shut down for COVID. We picked up a team from Keystone out of Knox, PA. They're a 7th through 9th grade team. We beat them 42-22. Following week we traveled to Northwestern, won by the score of 41-6. The next week was home against Seneca. We finished with a score of 48-18. Last week, regular season, we traveled to Iroquois, beat them 52-20. There's a championship game for middle school. However, we were not in it due to Girard being undefeated and General McLean beating us. And General McLean and us each had 1 loss, but they had the criteria to be in the championship. So we reached out to Fort LaBeouf and decided to play them. They came to town and we beat them 34-0. I'm going to talk about the 7th graders, just go through and list them. First 7th grader on the team was Keaton Persina, defensive back and wide receiver. Keaton ended up being a starter for us the last half of the year, worked really hard at practice and earned a starting spot. Next 7th grader is Alex Smith. He's a linebacker and quarterback. Next 7th grader is Gavin Greer. He was number 22. Defensive back and wide receiver. Next 7th grader, number 25, Aiden Beckrink. Defensive back, wide receiver. Got the nickname Odell at practice. Next 7th grader, Lucas Baker, number 27, was a linebacker and quarterback. He did get some playing time as a linebacker throughout some games. Number 28, Stephen Willis, was a defensive back and running back. Stephen suffered a broken femur, which he didn't know till the end of the season that it was broke, like right off the bat. Number 44, Logan Rhodes, also known as Meatball. He played defensive line and running back. Kid's a wrecking ball with legs. Number 61, Landon Hasbrook, defensive end, offensive lineman. Number 69, Colton Anderson, defensive line, offensive line. Number 70 is Cooper Hodat. Played some DN and some offensive line. Number 72, Grayson Mullet Linkerhoff. Played defensive line, O-line. Number 78 was Owen Nickerson. He was our starting center and played D-line. Now on to the 8th graders. Number 2, Will Allen, defensive back, wide receiver. Kid, very athletic, can go up, get the ball at the high point, and he's got great hands. Number 8 is Nick Lesher. He was our linebacker and the slot receiver. And he'd be in the backfield in a 2-back set. Nick's really fast. You aren't going to catch him when in the open field. Number 9 is Nolan Carey, also known as Hot Wheels. He's a linebacker and quarterback. This was Nolan's first year playing defense for us, as you know, we didn't want our quarterback to get hurt. This year we wanted him to show how he was toughened up. He worked hard in the off season, got big and strong. Number 23, Jackson Dine, defensive back, wide receiver, started some at cornerback as a rotation. Number 26, Mason Savitz, linebacker and running back. If you were in his way, he was going to run you over. He is not the type to juke you. He's going to run you over. Number 33 was Frankie Barr. Frankie started the season, wanted to play running back. We were shorthanded at the line, asked him to move to the line. He did so for us. So he was defensive line, offensive line. Noah Emerson, number 34, defensive back, wide receiver. Started some corner for us and some receiver, slot receiver. Number 54, Cale Elbers, defensive line, offensive line. He was in charge of the linemen, got things rolling with them. Number 62 is Logan Amy. Logan's first year playing football, got a pretty bad concussion, stuck with it, was healthy enough for the last 2 games. Number 65, Brody Burlingame, defensive end, offensive line. Brody was a guard for us. Number 76, Aiden Trask, also known as Ouch. Tough kid, but loves the word ouch. He played defensive line, offensive line. Number 84, Porter Cafferlin, defensive end, wide receiver. Porter started out as a DB due to someone leaving the team. They asked him if he'd play D-end for week 1. Never looked back. Very coachable. Does whatever you ask. Does everything perfect. Number 87, Justin Fay, defensive back, wide receiver. Number 89, Wesley Kurlowich, defensive back, wide receiver. This is Wesley's second year. First year he didn't get much playing time. Wasn't sure if he wanted to play. Talked to him, came out, really made an impact. For being a second year kid, he's got a lot of potential. And then finally, Jamison Dine, number 94, defensive end, offensive line. Middle school was coached by Jared Thompson, myself, Brad Allen, Josh Dine, Steve Savitz, and Andrew Smith. We talked, got together, picked out some awards. We have a defensive MVP, offensive MVP, top lineman, team player, and a scout team player. Our defensive MVP was Mason Savitz. Mason was in on pretty much every tackle, every snap. Offensive MVP was Nick Lesher. Scored a lot of our touchdowns. When he touched the ball, you never knew what was going to happen. Top lineman, Cale Elbers. Cale led the team, led the big guys up front. Scout team player was Grayson Linkerhoff. Grayson he's got a lot of potential. He's got a big heart. He pushes these guys all through practice. And then our team player award was Porter Cafferlin. Like I said before, he's coachable, does whatever's asked, watches film, asks what he can do to get better, never complains, and gives himself 100% no matter what. Like I said, we finished the season at 7-1, and these kids back in February and March, before COVID hit, around 20 of the middle schoolers came in at 6 o'clock on Wednesday mornings for the preseason workouts with the varsity. This group of kids from 7th and 8th grade are dedicated. They want to get better. They spent hours watching huddle, film, studying the other teams, studying their mistakes, and they believed in themselves. Not one of them was an I player. They didn't care about themselves. They did whatever it took to get things done as a team level and improve.
All right, I am presenting the freshmen. We'll start with the first one, number 32, Noah Fisher. Noah played running back and linebacker for us. Didn't get to play much because of an injury. We had number 36, Hunter Jordan. Number 47, Hayden Tomshow. Hayden finished the season with a couple varsity stats. He had 2 carries for 6 yards. He had 3 tackles, 1 solo, and he also finished the year on special teams on the kickoff team. We have number 49, Jack Hallberg. Number 50, Landon Bowen. Landon played running back and linebacker. We had number 62, Isaiah Clipson. Isaiah played running back and D-line. We had number 81, Marshall Morris. Marshall played wide receiver and DB. Then number 87, Austin Barr. Austin finished the year with 1 varsity tackle. He also finished the season playing on the kickoff team.
Hi, this is Coach Lusher. I'm introducing to you the sophomore class and going through each of the players and what they've earned during the course of our 2020 football season. So first up, we have Waylon Jackson. Waylon got some varsity time at quarterback. Got his feet wet a little bit there, but by and large, he was a JV player. He did a fantastic job for us on the JV squad, playing quarterback for us. Played a little safety for us as well, and did a nice job there too. Next up, we have Cooper Yatsko. Like Waylon, he got his feet wet as far as varsity goes, which was good. Did a nice job there. He helped out. He was our kind of our backup quarterback for the JV team, but he did a great job. Where he really excelled the most was playing wide receiver in the slot position, and he was a great leader for our team. He was a great leader. He knows the X's and O's inside out and upside down, and that's what I like about Cooper. Looking forward to working with him next year. The next player we have up is Ethan Allen. Ethan, as far as awards go, he gets his pin. Varsity stats, he had 5 receptions. He was an H, which is kind of like a tight end when we use a tight end, kind of a slot guy also. But on offense, he had 5 receptions for 74 yards. His biggest contribution was on the defensive side of the ball. He was a linebacker for us and was invaluable there. Great player for us on defense. He had 79 tackles, 44 of those were solo tackles. He had 5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss. He had an interception, he had a forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, and he had 1 defensive touchdown. He had a great season for us, a linebacker, another kid that knows his X's and O's very well. We've been fortunate to have him playing for us for 2 years. Looking forward to having 2 more years of working with Ethan. He's been a great player for us, and he's great to be around. Good leader for our team as well. As far as other awards go, he was a first team all-region linebacker for us, and he just did a fantastic job on the defensive side of the ball. The next guy up is David Perrett. David gets his his varsity letter and a pin. David was injured for part of the year, but was able to come in, played some on defense for us, subbed in there and did a nice job on defense. He's a solid cover guy. Looking forward to seeing what he can do on the offensive and defensive side of the ball for us next year. I enjoyed working with him, David Perrett. Our next guy up is Marley Gale. Marley was one of my linebackers. He did a great job playing JV ball. Really enjoyed having him. He's a real student of the game. He's constantly asking questions, constantly learning, constantly wanting to know more, know how to get better. He did a great job for us this year on the defensive side of the ball. He got a little bit of varsity time toward the end of the season. We had some injuries, and he got some playing time toward the end. It ended up with 6 tackles, 3 of those were solo. Glad to see him have the opportunity to play some varsity ball. He's going to be a valuable player to us in the future, and like David and Ethan and Coop and Waylon, looking forward to working with him as well in the future. Our next player is Aiden Knapp. Aiden played running back and linebacker. He was a fantastic runner for us for JV. Just a hard-nosed runner. Surprised me This was his first year playing football in some time, if I'm not mistaken. He came in, he was here all summer long. He worked really hard, got to know what we were doing. He went from not knowing anything about what was going on to the point where he was on the field, pushing to be on the varsity field, both offensively and defensively at the end of the season. He did a real nice job. He had 15 carries in varsity games for 78 yards. He had 7 tackles, 3 of those solo tackles in varsity games. But again, he was a real difference maker for us on the JV offensive side of the ball. Scored touchdowns galore for us. Had a big hand in the wins that we had during the course of the JV season. Our next player is Drew Kuzma. Drew got injured, unfortunately, early in the season, which was a bummer for him. He had really been working hard all summer long, putting time in the weight room, getting his X's and O's down, and I'm looking forward to working with him in the next few years. I think he's a big kid, and I think he's going to be a definite contributor for us. He just needs to get healthy and ready to roll for next season. So Drew Kuzma. Next up, we have the Martin boys. I call them the Martin twins. They're not really twins, obviously. Clay and Ryan. Clay kind of got bounced all over the place. He started off on the offensive side of the ball at wide receiver, different wide receiver positions, either slot or wide receiver or split. I mean, but he toward the end of the season, we were having some injuries in the JVs, and we were having a hard time fielding an offensive line. And he had played that last year, and so he got time as a JV offensive lineman guy. So I appreciate Clay, his willingness to do whatever it took to help the team. I think that's valuable, certainly for anybody to have some flexibility and to do whatever they're asked to do as far as helping out the team. Ryan Martin, he did a nice job for us on the offensive line in JV. He was just solid there. He was solid. We could always trust him to do what he was supposed to do. Learning the game, he's getting it down. Looking forward to seeing what he can do in the future as well. Our next player is Cole Nickerson. Cole, as far as awards go, gets a letter and a pin. He was a key rotator on our varsity offensive line. He was one of we have a nice group, a real nice group of sophomore offensive and defensive lineman guys, just some big boys, and he's one of them. Looking forward to seeing what he does at the varsity level for the next 2 years. On defense, he played some defensive end. He had 19 tackles. He played a little linebacker too, interestingly enough. He had 19 tackles. 5 of those were solo tackles, and he had a tackle for loss. A good leader for our team, and looking forward to working with him just like the rest of the boys. Our next player is Xavier Cressley. Xavier played on the offensive line, and he was a linebacker for us. And he definitely found his home as far as JV goes in the kicking game. He punted for us. He kicked off for us and did a nice job. We really didn't have anybody that could kick well, and he came in and did a bang-up job as far as the kicking game goes. So kind of found his home there. I do know he was a hard worker. He's learning the game as well. Has a ways to go with that, but if he sticks with it, I think it'll help him. He'll learn more and more as seasons progress. And but anyhow, nice job on special teams, Xavier, and looking forward to working with you again next year. Wyatt Eshelman is our next ball player. Wyatt at the varsity level had 9 tackles. 3 of them were solo tackles. He was a force for us at the JV level. He did a fantastic job, had a great game when we went up to Harbor Creek and beat those guys, and was proud. He was pretty dominant at the JV level. And if you're dominant at the JV level, that tells you that he's ready to roll for varsity. He's just got to make sure he's ready to roll next season. Put some time in the weight room, we'll be ready to go. So looking forward to working with Wyatt again this year, and seeing what he can do at the varsity level. Our next player is John Stybo. As far as awards go, he gets his letter and pin. He was our starting right guard on offense. Valuable player for us. Smart. Was always one of those linemen, the offensive lineman, was always asking questions. Always seemed to know his X's and O's very well. He was responsible, as well as his other lineman comrades. They were responsible for our team averaging 175 yards rushing a game, which is pretty impressive. Our running backs averaged a total of 5 yards a rush. We had 2,596 total yards as far as an offense goes. And those big guys up front play a huge role in that. They don't get the stats that the backs and the receivers and the quarterbacks and whatnot get, but they play every bit as an important role as any of those guys do, as far as that goes. So, I mean, as your offense goes, or as your line goes, your offense goes. So he played a huge role in that, and we're appreciative of what he did for our team. Looking forward to seeing what he can do for the next 2 years. Nice to have starting varsity experience for a sophomore. Pretty exciting to see what he can do for the next few years. Our next player up is Nathan Shirey. Nathan was another one of those big, I always call them the big uglies. That I mean that in an affectionate way, or not affection, in a term of endearment. But at any rate, he did a great job on the JV, at the JV level. He's a big kid too. Looking forward to seeing what he can do next year. He really grew as the season progressed, got in shape, and did a great job. He was able to initially. We only started one way on JV. He ended up playing both ways a lot for us toward the end of the season, and was a solid contributor there. Another kid that was getting to the point where he was fairly dominant in the JV games, which again means that he's getting real close to being varsity level player, which is good to see. Next player up is Brandon Xander. He played wide receiver and linebacker for us. He was a first year player, kind of like Aiden Knapp. Came in, didn't know what to expect because it was his first year in the program. Definitely an enthusiastic kid, love that about him. Was always ready to roll, ready to play ball, always willing to contribute on the practice field. Enjoyed seeing him play some JV ball, get some time in there. He's learning the game. He's getting his X's and O's down, and once he does, if his X's and O's matches his hands, I think he's going to be a real solid receiver for us. So anyhow, he did a nice job. Keep learning, keep working, stay in the weight room, and life will be good. Brandon Xander. Our next player is Tony Brutcher, or we like to call him Tony Boucher. At any rate, Tony gets a letter and his pin. Varsity-wise, he got his feet wet at wide receiver for us. I also had a kick return for us in varsity games. He had 5 receptions for 72 yards. He has great hands, fast. He's a fast bugger. Not real big, but he's fast. And as long as you got that speed, little guys can get away from the big guys, and that's all right. So anyhow, looking forward to seeing what he can do at the varsity level. I know as a JV wide receiver, he had some huge games for us. Harbor Creek was a huge one at Harbor Creek. I know he had a couple touchdowns up there. One at least was really long. He had a great season at the JV level, like Shirey and like Nickerson and those guys are getting to the point where they're playing really well at the JV level, which means he's getting real close to being a varsity player, one that's on the field all the time. So he did a nice job for us this year. Our last player at the sophomore level is Jeremy Sourwine. He came in, he played JV ball almost solely. Jeremy was getting his X's and O's down as well, learning the game. Played a nice safety for us. I was real comfortable with him. What was nice about Jeremy is that I could move him. He played a little bit of corner, played a lot of safety, but I could shift him around to basically any defensive back position, and he knew what he was doing, and that's good news. And he impressed me also with his aggressiveness. If he puts a little more weight on and continues to be as aggressive as he is, he's going to be a valuable contributor for our team. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in the future as well. So that's our sophomore crew. I got to work with most all these guys at the JV level, and really enjoyed working with them. And am looking forward to 2 more solid years out of all of these guys. And had a pleasure, had fun. It was a fun season. Glad we got 9 games in. So that's the sophomore class. I'm Coach Lusher. Have a nice day.
Hello, I'm Coach Carey. At this time I'd like to recognize the junior football players. Number 2, Sam Fisher. Sam was a wide receiver and defensive back. He led the team in receiving yards with 25 receptions for a total of 457 receiving yards. Defensively, Sam had 22 tackles, 13 solos, and 9 assists. Sam was also one of our return specialists. He had 12 kick returns for 318 yards and 8 punt returns for 60 yards. On defense, Sam had 22 tackles, 13 solos, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 fumble recovery. We're looking forward to a hard-working off-season with Sam as we prepare for the 2021 season. Sam was voted first team All-Region as a defensive back and second team All-Region as a wide receiver. Sam earns a pin this season. Number 8, Nate Lesher. Nate was our starting quarterback and probably our 19th string linebacker. Coach Goodwill wasn't very fond of Nate playing defense, which is understandable. Nate has been a great leader on and off the field and was voted by his peers as one of our team captains. He puts a lot of time and effort in the off-season, and that effort has manifested itself during the season. On the ground, Nate had 99 carries for 382 yards and 2 rushing TDs. In the air, Nate had 1,004 yards total passing and had 7 TD completions. Nate was voted as a second team All-Region quarterback. We are excited to see what the future holds for Nate as we prepare for off-season workouts. Nate earns a pin and a captain's pin. Number 10, Levi Smitley. Levi was a wide receiver and defensive back. He's a great student of the game. He was an important part of our JV squad and did a great job on our scout teams. Levi saw a lot of varsity action on special teams as a member of our kickoff, kick return, punt, and punt return teams. The staff is excited for a productive offseason with Levi in preparation for the 2021 season. Number 17, Damian Kinney, wide receiver, defensive back. Damian played a key role as one of our starting corners on defense. He had 19 total tackles with 14 solos. He also saw time on special teams as a member of the kickoff and punt team. We are looking forward to a productive offseason with Damian. Damian earns a pin this season. Number 21, Levi Tasker, one of our wide receivers and defensive backs. Levi displays great leadership skills and was voted by his peers as one of our team captains. He leads by examples through attending all off-season workouts. Unfortunately, Levi was sidelined by injury, but I'm sure he's doing all he can to come back bigger and stronger and faster next season. Even though he was sidelined, Levi remained with the team and did what he could to support us. He is truly a great teammate. Levi had 6 receptions for 114 yards. On defense, Levi had 10 tackles with 5 solos. one sack and one tackle for loss, and one fumble recovery, and one defensive touchdown. Levi earns a pin and a captain's pin. Number 28, Trenton Lilly, running back and linebacker. Unfortunately, Trenton had his season cut short, but up until that point, he was seeing a lot of time in the backfield and playing both inside and outside linebacker. Trenton had 3 carries for 8 yards. On defense, he had 3 tackles with 2 solos, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss. We're all hoping for a productive offseason with Trenton as we look forward to next fall. Trenton earns a pin this season. Number 29, Kyron Helmer, running back, linebacker. Ever since I've known Kyron, he's been the ultimate team player. Kyron is a good role model for his peers and younger players. He studies his weekly scouting report and prepares himself like no other. Kyron was an important part of our scout teams and our junior varsity team. On defense, he had 4 tackles with 1 solo. Kyron was also an important part of our varsity special teams, having served on our kickoff return team and our punt team. Thank you, Kyron, for setting a good example, and we look forward to seeing you in the off-season. Number 30, Hayden Linkerhoff, running back, defensive lineman, / tight end. Hayden was a nice addition to our team this season and did a nice job on both sides of the ball. On offense, he had 1 reception for 11 yards, and on defense, he had 29 total tackles, with 11 of those being solos and 1 tackle for loss. He is a good student of the game and always made sure that he knew what his job was and how to execute his responsibilities. In other words, he was never afraid to ask questions, and that is what we want out of a football player. We're excited to get to work in the offseason with Hayden and see what the future holds for him. Hayden was selected to the All-Region 2nd team as a defensive lineman. Earning a pin, Hayden Linkerhoff. Number 31, James Carpenter, wide receiver, linebacker. James has been very dedicated to the football program throughout his high school career. He is a great role model for younger players as his attitude and personality are infectious. He played a key role in our JV success this season and played an important role on our varsity special teams. On varsity defense, James had 1 tackle. He was a member of our kickoff return team, punt, and hands team. We're excited for a great offseason with James and can't wait to see how he can contribute next fall. Number 33, Jeffrey Petty. Jeffrey has been a great teammate since I've known him. He played an important role on our JV team this year and was a member of our varsity special teams. He served on the kickoff, kick return, and punt team. He displays positive practice habits and is never afraid to jump in anywhere when someone is needed. On varsity, Jeffrey had 2 carries for 39 yards. On defense, he had 6 tackles, 5 of those being solos, and 1 tackle for loss. A great offseason with Jeffrey is next on his list as he prepares to contribute even more next season. Number 34, Hunter Savitz, wide receiver, defensive back. Hunter saw a lot of time at free safety this year, but could have and would have played any position on the field if he asked him to. He's been the quarterback of our defense the past season. It's nice to have a guy out there that understands where all 11 need to be and when they need to be there. So his job is to get everyone lined up and make sure that our defense matches the opposing team's offense. He puts a lot of time in during the off season, and that mentally has translated on the game field. Hunter finished the season with 32 tackles, 17 of those were solos. He contributed greatly on special teams as a member of the kickoff, kick return, onside team, hands team, and punt team. Mr. Utility, Hunter Savitz, earns a pin this season. Number 55, Derek Albers, offensive lineman, defensive lineman. He was our starting center, rotated in on the defensive line throughout the season. He was instrumental in the offensive success that we had on the ground. Our offense averaged 175 yards a game. with a total of 2,596 yards for the season. That total boils down to 5 yards per rushing attempt. On defense, Derek had 13 tackles with 2 solos and 1 fumble recovery. What a great memory that fumble recovery is. To see him pick up that ball and get downfield, that'll stick in my mind forever. Derek puts a lot of time in during the off season, and I'm sure that he will continue to do that in the future. Derek was selected as a second-team All-Region offensive lineman and earning a pin this year, Derek Albers. Number 75, Xavier Rada, offensive and defensive lineman. One day I felt the ground shake and there was a shadow that came down upon me. I thought the end had come, but here it was just Rada jogging out for practice. This mountain of a man can sure get after it in the trenches. As our starting left tackle, Xavier played a big role in the success that we had on offense this year. Defensively, his motor never stopped, having 25 tackles with 10 being solos and 1 fumble recovery. Xavier was voted All-Region as a first-team defensive lineman and a second-team offensive lineman. We're excited to get back to work with Xavier this offseason. Earning a pin, Xavier Rada. Number 82, Deshaun Mitchell, tight end, defensive back. Here's a kid that just loves to play the game. He has a great attitude and is just fun to be around. Always smiling and enjoys what he's doing on the practice and game field. He was an important part of our JV team and played varsity special teams, having served on the kickoff return team. Thank you, Deshaun, and let's plan on a great off-season together. Number 85, Jade McElravy. She was a wide receiver and defensive back. Jade is one of the bravest individuals I've ever been around. Playing one of the most physically demanding sports there is, she never backed down from a challenge, and her personality and attitude was contagious. I learned just as much from her as she learned about football this season. She was an important part of our junior varsity team and our scout teams. Thank you, Jade, for being a great role model for our teammates, and we look forward to seeing you in the off-season. Thank you to all juniors for your commitment in the off-season, your commitment during practice, and your commitment during games. And I look forward to seeing you all as soon as we can. Take care.
Hi, Coach Goodwill. I'm going to talk about the seniors, our senior class. First off, number 11, Braden McKnight. He played wide receiver and defensive back for us. He had 1 reception for 30 yards. He had 17 tackles, 12 of them solo, 3 kick returns for 33 yards. Braden approached me 2 years ago and said that he wanted to play football. So I said, do it, and he didn't. He didn't play that year. He came to me again this past year and said that he was really, truly serious about playing, and it turned out that he was. And I'm glad that he decided to be a part of our team. It was an honor to get the opportunity not only to coach Braden, but to get to know him as a person. I only wish I could have coached him a couple more years. Braden is an intelligent young man. He has outstanding drive and personality, and I'm excited to see what his future brings. Many thanks to you, Braden, and congratulations on a great year. Braden earns a pin and his first varsity letter. Braden McKnight. Number 20, Owen Warren. Owen played running back for us on offense. He played linebacker and defensive line on defense. He had 10 tackles, 6 of them solo, 2 tackles for loss. And Owen is another guy who was kicking around the idea of playing football for a couple of years. And like Braden, I'm glad that he did decide to come out this year. Owen wowed me all year with his incredible focus on learning the game. When he wasn't in during practice, he was constantly by Coach Miller's side, learning everything he could about his position. His commitment to knowing the job and passion for the game earned him significant playing time later in the year and even a starting spot on defense and special teams. Owen, make sure you approach the rest of your life like you did this football season. I'm proud of you and best of luck to you. and Owen earns a pin and his first varsity letter. Number 22, Landon Weiss, played running back, played linebacker on defense. A lot of stats to go through for Landon. Landon this year had 178 carries for 1,117 yards and 17 rushing touchdowns. He averaged 6.28 yards a carry, 124 yards rushing per game. He also had 17 receptions for 235 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. Defensively, he had 38 tackles, 23 of them were solo, 3 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 1 interception, and 2 fumble recoveries. And he also did our punting. Landon, over a career, put together an impressive 3 years as a varsity running back. He rushed for 3,047 yards and accounted for 48 touchdowns during that period. Landon was our go-to guy on offense for the last 2 years. He displayed a mix of power and athleticism that you don't see too often in high school football. Every time we gave him the football, there was a chance that he was going to take it all the way in for a score, no matter what the situation was. He's the type of player that you build an offense around. Even more important than his stats, though, is his ability to lead on and off the field. Landon is a true leader by example. His attendance in the off-season was near perfect. His work ethic in the off-season, at practice, and in the classroom was incredible. His ability to fight through early season injuries and adversity was that of a true team-first player. Everything that Landon did during his career was centered around a team-first attitude. Landon, you will be missed. It's going to be very hard to fill your shoes. Carry that work ethic and great attitude with you wherever you go, whatever you decide to do. I'm sure you'll be a success. Thank you, Landon. Landon was a first-team selection, all-region, as a linebacker on defense, and he was also, for the second year in a row, he was a second-team selection on offense as a running back. Landon earns a pin and a captain pin, and he's also our team offensive player of the year. Congratulations, Landon Weiss. Number 24, Caden Bidwell. Caden played running back and defensive line. He had 2 tackles, one of them solo, 1 tackle for loss. We had high hopes for Caden coming into this year, but a knee injury in week 1 sidelined him for the rest of the season. Caden has faced a lot of adversity throughout his years in the football program. Caden, I hope you will always remember that it's not about what happens to you, it's about how you respond. I hope that you have grown from your experience here as a Corey football player, even though things may not have worked out the way that you wanted them to, and I hope that it's made you a stronger person. Best of luck to you in everything you do. Number 54, Steele Fuller. Steele was our kicker. His kicking stats, he was 16 for 23 on extra points. Steele was a full-time soccer player and part-time football player as he did our kicking for us this year. We are always so thankful to have a soccer player that works with us so that we may have a kicker year in and year out. To have a kid that can put the ball downfield the way that Steele did and be so high percentage on his extra points was a very valuable thing to have. Steele will be missed next year as we start a new search for our next kicker. Thank you, Steele, for your commitment to this team, and best of luck to you. And Steele earns a pin. Number 57, Jacob Wellman. Jacob played every position on the field, I think, this year, running back and offensive line, and D-line and linebacker on defense. Jacob just didn't have a lot of luck when it came to staying healthy. He dealt with some injuries early on in his career as a freshman and sophomore, and then as a junior last year he suffered a leg injury early in the season that knocked him out the whole year. And this year, just when it looked like he might be working his way into playing on Friday nights, he suffered an arm injury that knocked him out for the season. How Jacob responded to these events impresses me so much. He didn't run and hide away. He remained part of the team. He did whatever he could to help out. He was there with us throughout the entire year, rain or shine. Jacob understands the value of loyalty and being a good teammate. He understands that things don't always go as planned, but that's not an excuse to have a bad attitude or to feel sorry for yourself. I have no doubt that whatever adversity life throws at Jake, he's going to be okay. Keep that winning attitude, Jacob. It's going to take you a long way. And best of luck to you, and thank you for your commitment, Jacob. And Jacob earns a varsity pin this year. Number 67, Ethan Vallant. Ethan played offensive line and defensive line for us. He was our starting right tackle on offense, an offense that produced 175 rushing yards a game, 5 yards a rush, and 2,596 total yards of offense. He also saw some time on the defensive line. He had 5 tackles, 2 of them solo. The thing that impresses me most about Ethan is his toughness on the field. His physical toughness comes out in his play. He's a true offensive lineman that loves to impose his will on other players. He loves to get nasty, to be physical, to move people around, and to finish plays, and it's fun to watch. His mental toughness was evident in him playing through a shoulder injury through the last half of the season, one that would require surgery when the season was over. I've coached a lot of kids who wouldn't have played through that, but he did, and he was able to experience some great wins later on in the season. As coaches, we appreciate that mental toughness so much, and he was a true leader on our offensive line. Ethan, it was an honor to coach you, and we're excited to see what you can do as you go on and play at the next level. So thank you, Ethan. Ethan earns a pin this year. Number 71, Tristan Heiser. Tristan played offensive line and defensive line. Offensively, he was a key rotator on our offensive line. He was the next guy in when somebody went down. Defensively, he had 22 tackles. 8 of them were solo, 3 tackles for loss, and 1 fumble recovery. Tristan was kicking around the idea in the off-season of focusing on work this fall and not playing football. Obviously, he decided to play, and I think he would agree that it was a good decision for him. Tristan was close to being a varsity player last year during his junior year. To get himself to the next level, he needed to commit himself in the off-season and really buy into the program. He did just that. We saw a lot of Tristan throughout the summer, and he came every day with a focus on improving and being the best player that he can be. I'm extremely proud of Tristan for sticking it out and playing this year and earning a starting spot on the defensive line. He is the embodiment of the idea of hard work paying off. Carry that with you in everything you do, Tristan, and best of luck to you. Tristan earns a letter, his first varsity letter, and a pin. Number 72, Nick Ingerson. Nick played offensive line and defensive line for us. Nick didn't have much varsity experience throughout his 2 years playing here at Quarry, but he was very much a part of the heart and soul of this team, and it was an honor to coach him. His work ethic is second to none. He simply didn't miss practice. His attendance during the spring and summer was near perfect, and he showed up every day during the fall with one objective: get better. Nick was constantly working at becoming the best player that he can be. Though that didn't translate into varsity playing time, he did a fantastic job in JV, where we really, truly needed him. We severely lacked depth on the line in JV, and seniors don't have to play JV, but Nick chose to go out and compete and made it so our younger guys were able to go out and compete and get better. Thank you, Nick, for everything you've done with this program. You will be missed, and best of luck to you. Nick earns his first varsity letter and a pin. Number 78, Sean Proctor. Sean played offensive line and defensive line for us. He was our starting left guard. Again, I'll go through our rushing stats: 175 yards a game, 5 yards per rush. His defensive stats: 35 tackles, 18 of them were solo, 2 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, 1 fumble recovery, and he was also our starting long snapper and did a tremendous job at that. Sean was our most experienced player on the line on both sides of the football. He's a tough kid that played through some significant injuries in the later part of the year. Sean is extremely consistent, both in his play and his attitude. You always knew what you're going to get with Sean, and we really appreciate that as coaches. He is the kind of leader that's willing to say what needs to be said, regardless of what people are going to think. Sean is not afraid to question and demand to know why and confront things that need to be confronted. This is a quality that will make him a great leader someday, no matter what he decides to do. Thank you for everything, Sean, and best of luck to you. You will be truly missed. Sean was a first-team selection for all region as an offensive lineman, and he earns a pin and a captain's pin. Thanks, Sean. Now I'll announce the winner of the Bill Ross Lineman of the Year Award. The Bill Ross Lineman Award is our opportunity to honor the unsung heroes on the field, our offensive and defensive linemen. As a former lineman, these young men hold a special place in my heart. Being a lineman is the most difficult, unforgiving, and thankless job on the field. It takes selflessness, consistency, resiliency, teamwork, and a mental and physical toughness that is unmatched by any other position in football. With the Bill Ross Award, we like to honor a lineman that best demonstrates these character traits, and this year we felt it necessary to honor two of our linemen. In the last 2 seasons, our offensive and defensive lines have shown an unbelievable amount of growth. It's been a joy to watch our younger linemen work to perfect their craft and to see our line develop into a cohesive unit. This growth and development is a testament to the leadership of our Bill Ross Award winners. These young men not only led by example, but were also the vocal leaders that we needed on both sides of the football. They were guys that we could count on to get the job done, as well as lead the younger generations. These are guys that would play through injuries, lead during times of adversity, and play the game with the passion that it is meant to be played with. It was an honor to coach both of these young men, and I have no doubt that they will be a success in everything that they decide to do in life. This year's co-winners of the Bill Ross Lineman Award are Sean Proctor and Ethan Vallon. Congratulations, guys.
Next, I'll present the Special Teams Award. Special teams are often an overlooked part of the game, but any coach will stress the importance of special teams on a Friday night. It is often special teams that will gain or lose momentum in a game and carry a team to a victory or a loss. Special teams account for roughly 33% of all scoring across football. In any game, the responsibility of field position lies with special teams units. Being on special teams requires individuals to be selfless, relentless, and always focused. The Hammer Award is given each year to the special teams player that best represents these qualities and responsibilities. This year's special teams player was committed through the tumultuous offseason, embodied the team-first mentality in every sense of the word by playing multiple positions on special teams, offense, and defense. This year's winner played on every single special teams the whole season and never missed a special teams play throughout the course of the year. A true testament to his dependability and trust. The Hammer Award winner for the 2020 football season is Hunter Savas. Congratulations, Hunter.
At this time, I would like to announce the Defensive Player of the Year. This individual played in 8 games, had 79 tackles, 44 of those were solos, and 35 of those were assists. He had 5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, and 2 fumble recoveries. He's been a stalwart, playing linebacker for us this year, and a really solid football player on both sides of the ball. It's a privilege to announce number 18, Ethan Allen, as our Defensive Player of the Year. Thank you, Ethan.
To our seniors, thank you for being a guiding light and setting the example during a season where it would have been very easy to simply make excuses, to not invest the time, to not put in the work. With every new restriction and guideline we had to follow, and every injury or tough loss that we had to endure, you showed up every day and led by example and with great enthusiasm. There were no excuses from this senior class, only solutions. No negative, only positive. No pointing fingers, only lifting each other up. As this program and culture continues to grow and evolve, your contributions this year will always be a part of it. As I have said to you already, we're building something special here, and you guys are a big part of that foundation. You are appreciated, and you will be remembered. You will always have a home here with the Corey football team. We are proud of the growth that you've made here and excited about your futures. Best of luck to you, and go Beavs.